Good evening to you. Well, it's taken decades to get this far, but today the government gave the go-ahead to airport expansion at Heathrow. Those opposed to the decision came out fighting, but the Transport Secretary insists it is the best option.
We believe that the expansion of Heathrow Airport and the North West Runway scheme, in combination with a significant package of supporting measures on the scale recommended by the Airports Commission, offers the greatest level of benefit to passengers, business, and to help us deliver the broadest possible benefit to the whole of the United Kingdom.
Well, more than 76,000 people already work at Heathrow, and that figure will almost double with the new runway, creating a further 72,000 jobs. But it also means more flights, from 480,000 this year to 740,000. The runway should be operational in 2024 or 25. Mike Pearce has watched the day's events unfold and sent this earlier.
Yes, well, this is very much the go-ahead for the consultation phase. Now, we're understanding that that will last at least a year, so we may not get a final decision until 2018 in the spring, when MPs get the chance to vote on these proposals. Until then, we're going to see much debate, and some local authorities and environment groups are saying that they will be taking the government to court for a judicial review. Now, of course, Heathrow tonight have welcomed the scheme, saying it will create many thousands of jobs and boost the economy, and they say post-Brexit, that couldn't be better. Sentiments also the government agree with as well. But in terms of the protesters and people who say there will be 300,000 more flights above them, they say they will fight this tooth and nail. Already today we saw protests at Parliament, and groups were gathering under the flight path to make their views clear, to say they don't want this. Another big issue here at Heathrow will be the environment and the amount of emissions that get created from planes and the cars that come to Heathrow. And as things stand tonight, the airport says it can cope with that and it will meet those emissions targets. Campaigners say they don't believe it will, and that will now be a key thing in this debate. So two very differing sides tonight, some saying it's particularly good for jobs and the economy, others saying it's bad for the environment. The debate, which has raged for decades, will continue for some time yet. Mike Pearce, ITV News, Heathrow.
So what now for Gatwick? Well, the West Sussex Airport has pledged to continue planning for its second runway. Bosses claim it's the only option for expansion which will ever get built. There is support for that view among local businesses, but environmentalists say it's all just hot air and Gatwick should admit defeat, as Malcolm Shaw now reports.
This was Gatwick's vision of its future as a two-runway airport, a vision which now looks to be grounded, for the time being at least. It's a bitter disappointment to those who've lobbied hard for Gatwick and doubt whether expansion at Heathrow will ever actually happen.
For all the words spoken saying that Heathrow is the chosen one, actually Gatwick is the deliverable one, and this is what's important. Heathrow is going to get tied up in years of judicial review, years of fundraising issues, trying to find the money, trying to get the airlines to pay for its development and all these other things. Whereas Gatwick has got the land, it's got the funding, it's got the impetus behind it.
Despite today's announcement, Gatwick says it will still forge ahead with its runway plan, and there's plenty of support for that view among local businesses. Assurity Consulting helps companies meet health and safety regulations. Staff often need to fly to clients across the country and across the world.
I feel that Gatwick definitely need to continue with their plans so that the local economy and local businesses in the Gatwick Diamond region can all benefit from the second runway that we all hope will be built.
Gatwick argued that building a new runway here would be quicker, cheaper and less polluting than at Heathrow. But conservationists are furious that even now the airport won't accept defeat, and they're already preparing to fight Gatwick through the courts if necessary.
To go on ahead regardless of the government's decision, I think that's showing that they are interested in their stakeholders and their profits, and not what the best option is really for the South East and the communities and the environment of the South. I think it will also be open to challenge legally and scrutinised quite heavily.
This remains a deeply divisive issue. Towns like Horsham benefit from the jobs the airport generates, but also bear its environmental impact.
I don't think that Gatwick needs a second runway at all. I think it's fine.
We just desperately need a new runway here at Gatwick, for definite.
We don't like all the noise and all the extra traffic, but I think it's for the future.
Gatwick is already the world's busiest single runway airport and nearing full capacity years ahead of schedule. The arguments over whether a second runway here can still be justified seem set to rumble on. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Gatwick.
Well, the political fallout continued today too. 60 of Theresa May's own Conservative MPs had threatened a revolt against the Heathrow option, as our political correspondent Phil Hornby now explains.
8:30 this morning, protesters from the action group Plain Stupid make their voices heard. No runway expansion, they said. As they protested, a few hundred yards away, ministers were arriving for the crucial cabinet meeting. Unusually, those who disagree will be allowed to say so until the decision's finally approved by Parliament in 12 or 18 months' time. Late morning, more protests in Whitehall as the announcement's made. Then, the reaction.
I welcome the government's confirming what the Airports Commission have said is right for this country.
Surely it would have been better to have agreed for extra runway capacity at both Gatwick and Heathrow.
This is a great announcement. It's the right announcement. It's taken in the national interest. It's the best way of getting economic growth, not only to London and the South East, but right the way across the country.
There shouldn't be any expansion of aviation anywhere. If we are serious about our climate change commitments, that has got to mean that we do not keep promoting more and more flying.
Most MPs do support today's announcement, but many Tories, including some cabinet ministers, say they're determined to fight it.
I'm going to continue to make my point. I do think that building a third runway slap bang in the middle of the western suburbs, the greatest city on earth, is not the right thing to do.
So we have a decision today, but the arguments will go on.
Phil Hornby reporting there. Lots more on this and the rest of the day's news on our website. Just head to itv.com/Meridian. In other news, a man's been jailed for 5 years for punching and killing his girlfriend during an argument at a train station in Bournemouth. 37-year-old Daniel Bragg pleaded guilty to manslaughter. He attacked Julie Cook on the platform at Folkestone train station in May. She died in hospital 2 days later as a result of her injuries. Southern Health must improve the way it deals with the families of patients who die in its care, according to a new report. The NHS Trust has been criticised for failing to properly investigate hundreds of deaths. A new internal report spoke to 12 families and found communication with them was poor or non-existent. Southern Health's chief executive apologised and said changes are being made. An armed robber has been jailed for 8 years after a raid on a Co-op store in Clanfield. CCTV showed 47-year-old Anthony Journet from Havant walk into the shop on White Dirt Lane in May and threaten staff with a fake gun. He stole £200 in cash and cigarettes. And plans have been unveiled for new shops, a restaurant and more than 80 apartments on the site of Bournemouth's Odeon Cinema. The 1920s building on Westover Road was sold for almost £4 million last year. A new cinema will open at the new BH2 Leisure Complex on Exeter Road next year. OK, time now for a look at the weather with, of course, Simon Parkin.
From sleet to the slopes, driving through Europe, Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Good evening, and you'll be pleased to know our calm and quiet weather continues, although it's so quiet tonight that could cause problems in itself, because if we do see some mist and fog forming, it's going to be very slow to clear first thing tomorrow morning because there's barely any wind to blow it out of the way. So high pressure very much in charge as we head through the next couple of days, sitting down towards the south of the country. So to the north, they've got various weather fronts. For us, we're just going to see, well, steadily moist air coming our way, and that's not helping with our problems with mist and fog tonight. Where we get the clear spells, we will see that mist developing. Could be fairly widespread in some places. Temperature-wise, though, it's mild, around 9-10 degrees, but with those light winds, that mist, well, it's going to be 9, 10, maybe even 11 o'clock tomorrow morning before it lifts for some of us. So tricky conditions first thing, but once it's lifted into low cloud, we'll see that cloud start to break up quite nicely, and you can see there'll be some decent bright or sunny spells come the afternoon. And the winds stay light, so with temperatures up to around 14, 15 degrees, should actually feel fairly pleasant if you're out and about. And then no change for the rest of the week, with more murk first thing in the morning.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
And that's the way we look this evening. We are back during Good Morning Britain from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. But from the late team for now, it is good night, sleep well, and join us again soon from all of us here. Bye-bye.